What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to a new video. If this is your first time here on the channel, thanks for stopping by. Definitely check out some of my other videos, and if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. I personally believe that 2022 was a great year for video game releases. A lot of great stuff came out. So today I wanted to share with you 10 of my favorite games from 2022. It's so weird doing this video. I feel like it's been years since I've done one of these. So I didn't torture myself and try to put these in any type of order. I'm just sharing with you guys 10 of my favorite games that came out last year. Here we go. When it comes to first party single player experiences, I feel like Sony always does gamers right. You know, I feel like they always put out fantastic games that are definitely a vibe. They're an experience. Sometimes, a lot of the times, you know, there's a lot of emotion involved. And that's definitely the case with God of War Ragnarok. It took me a while to finish this game. It was just deep for some reason. I got all the feels at the end of it. But, you know, I really do think this is the best God of War game that we've seen thus far, right? I like this one better than the 2018 version of God of War. It was just an overall amazing experience. A lot of that has to do with the voice acting. The voice acting was on par. It was amazing. The characters that we see, you know, we have Odin, we have Thor. It's funny because when I was playing the game and Thor comes up, my husband's like, who is that? I'm like, that's Thor. He's like, from Marvel? I'm like, no, from Greek mythology. At times I got a little overwhelmed, and that's just because of the amount of things that you have to manage throughout the game. There's all this gear, all these relics, amulets, all this stuff, right? But that definitely doesn't take away from the core gameplay, which is fantastic. It just felt so good, you know, to call your axe back to you. You use the blades of chaos. The gameplay is just fantastic. And of course, like I said, the narrative. So yeah, Thor Ragnarok, one of my favorite games of 2022. Definitely want to see what happens next. If you know me, then it's probably no surprise at all that Splatoon 3 is one of my favorite games of 2022. I just love the series as a whole. I do love shooters, but I'm not one to go onto my PlayStation 5 and play any shooter competitively just because I know, you know, I'm not good at them. But the core objective surrounding Splatoon, the Splatoon games, are just easy enough for me. I feel like I am doing something. It's not all about kills, and I think that's pretty awesome. And it looks great. It's a lot of fun. I know Splatoon 3 got a little flack, I guess. People said it was like an upgraded version of Splatoon 2, which it kind of is. It takes Splatoon 2 for me and fixes majority of the problems that I had with it. There's definitely a lot more customization options in Splatoon 3, which I really enjoy. I also enjoy the new weapons. You got new areas, and the single player is a lot of fun, despite what some people may think. I just recently completed it and I enjoyed it a lot. So I know for a fact that Splatoon 3 is going to be a game that I'll be playing until the next one comes out. So one surprise from 2022, a game that absolutely blew me away, I just was not expecting to love it so much, was Tinykin. For those of you that aren't familiar with the game, take the mechanics from Pikmin, okay? And then you add in some amazing platforming and you have Tinykin. You play as this cute little kid named Milo who just somehow manages to land on Earth. He's trying to get back to his homeland. He lands on Earth in this house. He's a little like astronaut dude, right? And it's the 90s. I don't know when in the 90s, but it's the 90s, and he's trying to collect these objects to get back home. There's absolutely no combat in Tinykin whatsoever. It's just all about traversing through and exploring these areas in this one house. And the controls are just so great. They're tight. They feel good. I mean, this is really an example of what a platformer should feel like. Once I got the hang of how these Tinykin work, these little Pikmin, shall we say, work, and how each color Tinykin has a different ability. Once I got the hang with that, I was hooked. Couldn't stop playing it until the end. Absolutely enjoyed it. Pikmin 4, you guys need to take notes, for real. Since I was just talking about Tinykin and how it was set in the 1990s, might as well keep this 90s vibe rolling. This next game is another game that took me by surprise, blew me away when I finally played it. Well, when it launched in the summer, it was part of the Xbox Game Pass. That game is As Dusk Falls. It's funny because like now it seems like these modern day like narrative adventure games are quickly starting to become one of my favorite genres. I'm really enjoying my time with these type of games. As Dusk Falls was just such a blast to play. I streamed majority of the game over on my Twitch channel and I just got all the feels. As Dusk Falls is a heavy narrative driven game, so I don't want to spoil the story for any of you guys out there that haven't played it yet. I do strongly suggest that you go and play it if you like this genre. But just know that there are two families and their lives kind of intertwine, all based off of a crime that was committed. The game falls along the same lines as the other games in the genre. You know, there are QTEs, right? But for me, I think the thing that sets As Dusk Falls apart from the other games in the genre is the fact that the decision-making process in this game was just so hard. There were a lot of times I questioned myself, you know, I didn't know if I was making the right decision. I actually cared about the characters. The story was really good, fantastic story in the way it was told. Voice acting was on point as well. I also think that the art style is something that sets this game apart. It's just so distinct, you know, you don't really see games that look like this. And I wasn't really a fan of it to begin with, but to be honest with you, it didn't even really matter. I was just so into the story and I hope that there's a sequel of some sorts. I really should replay the game again and try to make different choices, but I really enjoyed my time with it. All right, I have one more game that's set in the 90s that I really loved in 2022. That's Arcade Paradise. Arcade Paradise is a like time management simulation game, right? You play as this teen, maybe as a young adult, and you know, his dad just handed over his laundromat. Again, it's set in the 90s. So you have this laundromat and you're trying to think of how you can bring in some income. So you start buying arcade machines, you know, you set up an arcade in the back of the laundromat. Oh, guys, if you haven't played this game, you're clearly missing out. In the beginning of the game, the way that you make your income, the way that you make money is by doing all of the laundromat stuff, right? Managing this laundromat. So you're cleaning up the laundromat, you're picking up the trash, you're taking the trash out to the dumpster, you're pulling gum off of, you know, the laundry machines, you're plunging toilets. Of course, you're doing laundry. So people will drop off their laundry, put a pile in, take it out, put a load in, take it out, put it into the dryer. All of that. You're doing all of that. What I love about this game is that you can actually play these arcade games. Like there's air hockey. There's an arcade machine like Galaga. There's an arcade machine like Dance Dance Revolution. There's an arcade machine like Outrun. I mean, I don't know exactly how many arcade machines are in this game because I haven't completed it yet. But there are a lot and they are so much fun to do. Each arcade machine, you're able to actually go in and decide how much you want to charge for each, you know, game, how many quarters someone has to put in. You know, you have these goals for each arcade machine as well that you need to try to complete. I just really enjoy Arcade Paradise a whole lot. It makes me think of, you know, being back in the 90s, and I didn't necessarily go to laundromats, but going to like the bowling alley and playing arcade machines, going to the Pizza Hut and playing arcade machines, and just having so much fun with it. Definitely has that 90s vibe, and it is just wholesome fun. Guys, honestly, seriously, if you're into retro games and you want just that 90s vibe, definitely check out Arcade Paradise. So this next game does have a lot in common with As Dusk Falls because, again, it's like a modern day narrative, choose your own adventure-esque type of game, and that's The Quarry. I had a lot of fun with this game over the summer, guys. It dropped in the summer and I streamed this. Another game that I streamed majority, if not all of the game on Twitch. And it was just a blast to play through. Not to mention the fact that the cover art for this game is pretty badass. It definitely reminds me of like an 80s or 90s movie poster. The quarry really was a lot of fun. You basically have these older teenagers, young adults who are camp counselors. It's the summertime. They're off at this camp, and there's this creature lurking in the dark. I know it's pegged as like a horror game, but I didn't think that it was scary. There are some jump scares in there, but it's more or less of a thriller. But my favorite thing about this game were the characters. They were just so funny. Supermassive really does have this genre on lock. I mean, they know what they're doing when it comes to these games, and that's great. I love it. Of course, you have your QTEs, and of course, you're making decisions. When I play these games, I try to keep everyone alive. That didn't necessarily happen in the quarry. Had a lot of people die on me. The voice acting was really good, and overall, the game was just campy, which I really enjoyed. It had that horror movie like vibe to it, even though it wasn't necessarily scary, but it still had that vibe, and I'm looking forward to whatever Supermassive puts out next. So there was a game that was released last year on the Nintendo Switch that I played, and it was one of the most wholesome experiences that I had. It just put a smile on my face every time I played it, and that is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I think it's pretty safe for me to say that Kirby's probably always going to be my jam. For the most part, I kind of always know what I'm getting into when I play a Kirby game, right? But Kirby and the Forgotten Land definitely felt different. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first 3D Kirby game, right? Like traditional Kirby game, which was great. You kind of had like this open world, little post-apocalyptic, if you will, but you still had these like bright and vibrant environments, right? Which I really did enjoy. It's a Kirby game, so there wasn't really much of a challenge, but the level design, in this game was just so awesome. And then, of course, we had mouthful mode, right? And I think that just put a twist on the game overall. The fact that Kirby can like inhale a car and drive around, or inhale a vending machine and throw out soda cans was just too cute. Compared to other Kirby games, I honestly feel like Forgotten Land had a little bit more meat to it, right? There was a little bit more in there for you to do. Of course, you had everything that you can find throughout each level. And then there were like these little side challenges that you can do depending on your abilities. And those were, I'm not gonna lie, those were a little challenging. With that being said, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is not only one of my favorite games of 2022, but it's also one of my favorite Kirby games ever. I've always enjoyed the vibe of Pokemon. Actually, I don't even want to say always, because that hasn't always been the case, but I enjoy the vibe of Pokemon. But I'm not out here in these Pokemon streets. I'm not a Pokemon aficionado by any means. But I will say, Pokemon Legends Arceus is pretty badass. Pokemon Legend Arceus is the first game that was just like a game changer for me. It was the first Pokemon game that I was just like, this is so awesome. And I think that has to do a lot with the whole concept of it being totally different than any other Pokemon game before it. I guess you can consider it like a prequel to Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, but the fact that the game isn't focused on getting these, beating these gym leaders, and of course, you're still trying to fill out the Pokédex, but it's not all about getting badges and, winning, right? It's all about you exploring these areas and catching these Pokemon. I didn't fill out the entire Pokédex in Pokemon Legends Arceus, but I definitely wanted to. I really did. Like I said, it was just for me all about going into this area and trying to see what Pokemon I was going to encounter. It was like this sense of like mystery and wonder. You know what I'm saying? Like I just didn't know what I was going to get. And I really enjoyed that. It's not the best looking game on the Nintendo Switch, but it looks pretty darn good. And then you have this open world. You have this open world environment. Again, Game Freak switching it up, which I really enjoyed. You see a couple of those elements from Pokemon Legends Arceus and the new Scarlet and Violet, which is pretty cool. I haven't gotten really far into my copy, but Pokemon Legends Arceus was just like a breath of fresh air for me. And I'm saying that as someone that's not even really big into Pokemon. I'm sure there are a lot of Pokemon people out there that are a little upset with the changes that came with Legends Arceus. But to be honest, I thought it was awesome. You guys know I enjoyed the Xenoblade Chronicle games, so it's no surprise that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is one of my favorite games of 2022. What I love most about this series, besides the narrative for the most part, is just exploring the environments, uncovering that map. You never know what's around the corner, right? So sometimes, early on in a game, you will see these vast environments and you'll see these huge, like level 90 beasts that sometimes will still sometimes follow you and you're severely underleveled and kill you. But that's just so much fun to me, seeing what's around the corner and just exploring these vast environments. And there's a lot of that in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I don't want to give away the story, but know that the story I thought was great. I thought the story was great. The concept behind why these characters are together was really good. Definitely kept me playing throughout the almost 80 hours that I spent with the game. Once I unlocked the Ouroboros, it took me a little while to fully grasp the concept of chaining together like these fusions and arts with the characters and trying to pull off some sick combos. I didn't think that I was gonna really like switching between each of the characters. I know some people didn't necessarily do that, but I gave that a chance. Definitely switch through each of the characters and being able to like give them different jobs and leveling that stuff up. That was a lot of fun too. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 definitely didn't disappoint me. I enjoyed the time that I spent in that game, in that world. Now I feel like I kind of want to give Xenoblade Chronicles X a chance. A lot of people love that game. I didn't necessarily gel with it when it released on the Wii U, so maybe we'll see some type of port in the future. That would be great. We finally made it to the last game, one of my favorite games of 2022. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about it because I did a dedicated video all about it. That game is Vampire Survivors. If you would have told me that I was going to be addicted and hooked on a roguelike auto shooter, basically, I would have been like, you're crazy, you're nuts, there's no way that's gonna happen. But somehow it did. Vampire Survivors is truly a treat. It honestly is. It's a game that when I wasn't playing it, I was thinking about playing it. I was thinking about unlocking all of the characters and everything that I possibly could do. I was just like obsessed with the game. The music is dope. The NES style graphics is awesome. Just the overall experience, the vibe is what I'm here for, right? I've been playing it on my Steam Deck a bit. I played a whole bunch of it on the Xbox Series X. Now I want to play it on the Steam Deck. I got the DLC. I'm ready. Trying to do everything. I'm still trying to do everything that I possibly can in the game. It's just a fantastic experience, guys. It really is. And it just threw me for a loop. Wasn't expecting it. So those were 10 of my favorite games from 2022. A lot of surprises, and surprisingly, a lot of games set in the 1990s. Who would have thought, right? I would love to hear some of your favorite games from 2022. Let me know in the comment box below. If you've played any of these games that I mentioned in this video, let me know what you think about them. I want to thank all of you for watching this video, and I'll check you next time. Peace.